It looks like a few days off has made absolutely no difference to India's fast bowlers. They've picked up right where they left off at Trent Bridge. 57 for 4 is what England's first session looks like after Joe Root won the toss. That's not what he had hoped for. It's the lunchtime show on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. Nick Compton, Ajit Agarkar with me. We'll answer all those thoughts and questions that we had pre-show about England's batting and whether some questions have been answered. That must have, as a former fast bowler who's toiled at times on pitches that weren't as helpful, this session, this group of fast bowlers bowling the way they have must be giving you a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, and bowling through the session, 4 of them. No, again, the consistency is just incredible. Yes, the ball has done a bit. Like I said at the top, I'm not quite sure Joe Root would have enjoyed winning that toss, although it was the right decision to bat first. England just not batting well enough, and India is at the top of the game as far as the bowling is concerned. So a combination of both, but really good session for India again.
I mean, we're going to go through each wicket and talk about what happened. I'm sure Ajit has a lot to say about Jasprit Bumrah. Nick Compton has his as well. But Nick, in that session, should we say that we've seen England at times throw wickets away in spite of their top order not being in form? Was that session perhaps more credit to India's bowling than England giving it away?
Absolutely. It's not often you would say that an Indian bowling attack was hostile, had threat. But this Indian attack, there's clearly been a precedent on pace. Every bowler who's come in has been right on the mark early on in the test match, which is key, particularly when you've had a break. You don't want to let the opposition team, when they've won the toss and are batting first, get a few easy boundaries, get themselves in. They've been right on the mark. Their swing, their control, and their pace has been excellent, and they've taken their catches. I think it's been flawless from India. As in terms of England, it's been tough. It's been a tough session. Yes, they haven't thrown their wickets away. I think Cook would probably be a little disappointed, having I thought lined up the ball very well. We spoke about getting onto off stump and covering your stumps, and I thought he did that very well. He left a lot better than we've seen in recent times. And I just suddenly thought that maybe these were the makings of another test 100 for Cook. But it was a little bit of a lapse in concentration, as we've seen a little bit in the past, a shot that he won't be proud of. And that's where I think England have missed out. It would have been nice to have had Cook going into lunchtime, but they're really under the pump now.
Yeah, okay, let's go backwards then. Let's talk about Alistair Cook, since Nick's brought that up. And you made the point in the pre-show that it's unlike or unheard of for Alistair Cook in his prime to dig out and get into that start and then get out in 17 and 20s. That's what he's got, 55 balls today. It's not the first time it's happened, but Cook getting out like that's become a bit of a pattern now. Yeah,
well, I think today he'd be really disappointed. I think he's got some good balls before this in this series. Got through Ishan's spell, who's troubled him the most with the new ball. That'd be very disappointing for him. I think I don't know whether Nick agrees, but that's the best he's looked in this series. Sure. And looked ominous for India at that point. Again, very, very sort of unusual, really good catch by Virat Kohli, but very unusual of Cook to play that sort of shot because concentration is one thing which his whole game has thrived on over the years.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's that little bit of luck. You know that as a cricketer, Steve Harmison brought that up in the last test. 4 years back, Alistair Cook batting 15, fighting for his captaincy, and his line gets a straightforward one dropped of Jadeja at gully. This time Kohli, who's dropped as many as he's taken, just manages to cling on to one. Okay, let's go to the other wickets. Let's start with Keaton Jennings. I think you guys will have a field day with the Keaton Jennings wicket. Nick Compton, as an opening batsman, try and explain to us what Keaton Jennings has tried to do there.
Look, I actually think he's premeditated that, and I say that in the sense that he's obviously done some homework on Bumrah, who's gone across the left-hander very successfully in this series. But if you look at his movement, his initial movement, as the ball's released, he's almost falling across the crease as if he's made a decision that the ball is going to go across him. It's a very good bit of bowling. It shows Bumrah is clever. He's an intelligent bowler, and also to be able to swing the ball back at will and pitch it on the stumps and execute it is exceptional bit of bowling. But I think Keaton Jennings has made a decision halfway down that the ball's going to go across him, and of course he's been done, as they say in England, hook, line and sinker, and he's left a straight one, and unfortunately for him he has to go back. Unfortunately, when your mind is a bit clouded, when you're going in there trying to rectify a problem which has previously been playing at balls outside the off stump, I feel a bit sorry for him. It's a tough blow, but that's Test cricket, and it's a very skilled bit of bowling.
And for those that may not pick it up, it's not like it's hit a crack and gone the other way. There is a real skill to what Jasprit Bumrah is doing that you've observed.
Yeah, I mean, actually observed it a few years back in white ball cricket. You always felt like because of his action, there was a ball which straightened, but he actually releases it or tries to release it as an outswinger and does bowl that consistently. Even that ball which Jennings has gotten out, the seam is sort of pointed towards left-hander's fine leg.
Which is extraordinary because the release, the angle is towards the off stump of the left-hander, but the release somehow just is the
it's
the
an exceptional skill to have with his kind of
So what's the release
action.
like?
Oh, it's still like a normal outswinger.
Yeah, but his hand is almost.
No, but he doesn't really collapse like Ishant is. He's still quite over the top. He's quite straight. So he can do that, but it's still a great bit of skill to have. And it's such a tough ball for a batsman to face, particularly a left-hander, if it's swinging into him and that late. And like Nick said, when you have so many doubts already in your head about just how you can survive, you've eventually ended up missing a straight one, as good a ball as it was.
I mean, it's not a. It's you can have many times in your career when you can get a ball like that, but when you're struggling for runs, Keaton Jennings, sometimes you look worse, Nick, than it might be, or maybe the way Nick Jennings has got out makes that look worse. But is the clock ticking now on Keaton Jennings?
Yeah, I'm sure it is, and he'll be feeling that in his head walking back to the change room. It starts to become all familiar. You feel like luck is against you. You get a ball like that, and you think, oh, have I made a mistake there? And it's very hard to come out of that rut. I think opening the batting in England, for me, is a lot about angles. And Ajit was saying earlier that Cook looked the best he's looked in this series, and I would agree with that. And I think the reason for that is he got a lot further over onto the stumps, was waiting for the bowlers to come a lot straighter. And then as soon as it was wider, he left with a lot more assurance, and it was really nice to watch. It's the kind of Cook of old. And I think the same with Keaton Jennings. I still feel like he's shuffling across the crease. What you should be doing, potentially, and it's easier said than done, is covering your stumps and waiting for Bumrah to come into your pads, waiting for the in-swinger. Because, of course, any other ball is either pitching off the line of the stumps and going across you, and it's very difficult for the right arm over the wicket to hit the stumps. So he should be waiting for the ball coming into him. Anything that's not, he can leave with confidence. And unfortunately, when you're in two minds, you're worried about the one going across you. You're looking for that because you've obviously edged a few. Suddenly one comes back and you're out. It can be a very tough game. But I think what I'm trying to say in conclusion is you've got to take one of the dismissals out of the equation.
And we saw Alistair Cook almost do that. I mean, different batsmen and different caliber, but do that, wait almost for the ball that came in and play the one that comes into the left-hander slightly better. Next wicket, Joe Root. 14 balls, 4 runs for the England captain, got out twice in it. Once Bumrah crossed the line and then Ishant Sharma trapped him in front. The one that he's actually got out to, let's go to that one. It seems to have swung a lot. We initially thought maybe it's doing too much, but it's dead. He's missed it by some distance too.
Yeah, swung a lot and swung late. And the length, normally, I mean, if taller bowlers find it a lot harder to get it as full as Ishant has, and that's been one of the criticisms in his career, that maybe he doesn't bowl full enough. In this series, he's done a lot of that, and he's been rightly rewarded. That swung a lot to beat a batsman. Again, another batsman who's as good as he is, short on confidence suddenly after those 2 one-days and that first test seems to be a bit short on runs.
We've pulled these numbers for you because you made the point, Ajit. The difference we're seeing in Ishant Sharma is the amount of full bowling of the balls. If you look at lengths, 20% the number of balls the percentage of balls that have gone full, as against 8% in 2014. In some ways, this is the revelation of Ishant Sharma in the last year or so. He's gotten much better.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's bowled to the left-handers at the start, which has helped his case as well, where he really coming around the stump bowls quite full to them. But even in one of the previous tests, he got a couple of right-handers out who were beaten by his fuller lengths, which is for a batsman to line up such a tall guy who can bowl full and he's at decent pace and then get some movement is always hard. So yeah, really good piece of bowling. I think he again bowled a really good spell first up.
I mean, the other side, Nick, it's now been over a year since Joe Root's last Test 100 for a man who's considered in the top 4 or 5 best batsmen in the world. We keep having this chat of Kohli and Smith and Williamson and Root. Suddenly, with the kind of year he's at, you expect Joe Root to do a lot more. Now it's becoming more and more worrying, isn't it?
It is worrying, and I come back to the point I made at the beginning of the year, even last year. Him batting at 3 is not a fit for England. He's captain of the team. Take the pressure off him. Let him bat at number 4. That's his best position. He's a counteracting player at best. Why would you want 2 good deliveries with a new ball to remove Cook and Root, your 2 best players? It doesn't make sense to me. I think England are trying to fix a problem in the top order by shuffling other players to dismantle what is a very successful middle order that England have. And I'd like to see Root batting at 4. Not to say he couldn't get out like that, of course. It was a good bit of bowling, but I think with Root's technique, standing in front of the stumps, I guess he'll just be angry that he's fallen over slightly. You've probably got to even make sure that you're hitting mid-on, you're hitting straighter, and then you can command that channel. If he commands that channel and he's hitting that ball to mid-on, then I think it's very hard for the bowler to get him out.
Okay, now, I mean, I sometimes think, what's the big deal, 3 or 4? I get Nick's point. Your best player, we've seen it with Kohli, we've seen it with Tendulkar, you normally bat him 4. Would it have been slightly easier if England had a steady-ish opening combination? Because right now, even if he bats at 4, it seems like he's in the first 5 or 6 overs. But these are just amplifying England's problems.
Yeah, but he's otherwise in the second over.
Yeah.
So, by the way, it's gone at number 3. I'm sure it'll help because he has the additional burden of captaincy. Look, I mean, he's done it through his career, which obviously, again, short of confidence. Like Nick said, maybe fallen over a little bit, a good piece of bowling. One of those things where when you don't have enough runs behind you and then you're put under pressure, when you know the opposition suddenly over the last test and a half are in the ascendancy, that adds to everything, and even great batsmen make mistakes.
Johnny Bairstow has batting at 4 without the gloves. We spoke a lot about him on the pre-show. Has almost in the second innings in a row now played somewhat inside the line of a Jasprit Bumrah ball. Fault of the batsman in the way he's playing Bumrah. There's a larger issue also that England are just not being able to read Bumrah well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously they haven't played him much, and especially with red ball, he hasn't played much red ball cricket. So with his kind of action, it's never easy, and bowls at decent pace as well. So gives you a lot less time to adjust, even if you've been beaten off length. Yeah, but Bairstow for some reason just didn't look comfortable since ball 1, whether it was to Bumrah or to the other bowlers. Obviously, he was playing inside the line a lot. Seemed like just hanging back a bit. You know, I don't know whether he was a wise decision to play him with that broken finger, because just for such a free-flowing batsman, yeah, okay, it's the first morning, you're trying to play out that session, but he just didn't look comfortable.
I mean, is it because they anyway have so many questions about the rest of the batting, Nick, that you didn't mind even a 60-70% fit Johnny Bairstow? But yeah, there's another larger point we were discussing, how England's batsmen, as hard as it is to pick Bumrah, are just not being able to figure out what he's bowling.
No, he's accurate. It's a bit like a James Anderson. The quality of the seam coming down shows his skill and shows how quickly he's adapted to the pressures of Test cricket. You know, he looks like he's been playing for years and years, and I think that's great credit to the selection of India and to Virat Kohli for backing somebody who's been so exceptional in one day and 2020 cricket. But I think we go back to England's batting order. Johnny Bairstow, bad finger, batting at 4. Johnny Bairstow's not a number 4 for me. He didn't bat number 4 for Yorkshire, so why is he batting 4 for England? He's a free-scoring player. He's a counter-attacking player. He stays slightly leg side of the ball, and players who stay slightly leg side of the ball are looking to play through the offside, are looking to play on good wickets, and Johnny Bairstow is that. He's not a technician. He's an exceptionally good England batsman, but he's not a technician. In these situations, you know, you need players who have a real technical understanding. You know, players that are going to stand on off stump and are going to look to block out one form of dismissal. You know, you've got to try and simplify things for yourself. It is very easier said than done, and so easy sitting here and saying that. But you know, unfortunately, that's the problem with this England team. They have a lot of free-scoring players, and when it goes well, it looks exceptional. But then there's also a few bad days in there as well, and I think that's what they've got to try and build towards. Get Joe Root in his right position at number 4, Johnny Bairstow at number 5, and that is a better order for me.
All right. Well, just quick word before we wind up this pitch. Doesn't look like, I mean, looks okay now, this team selection. We're worrying about a spinner or not, but looks okay.
No, I didn't think there was any need for another spinner. I mean, why disturb a combination that's just done so well in the previous test? So, no, it looks good, but they've also executed the plans well. It's not just that the pitch is doing everything for them.
Will it get any easier to bat?
You would think so, with the sun beating down. You'll have to wait and see, but the ball still swung.
All right. Nick Compton, quick word. Easier to bat now?
Well, he gets a bat. I think India will be in quickly. I think it's a real tough order. The ball's moving around. India are on fire at the moment. I think if England can get to 160, 170, they would have done quite well.
All right, many thanks, Nick Compton. Ajit Agarkar, get your thoughts at tea time. Do join us then for our tea show on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. Let's see if England can dig themselves out of this hole.